Ariel only wanted to find the HR lobby. Instead, she walked into a billionaire's private meeting, spilled her portfolio, and changed both their lives forever. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Ariel James took a deep breath as she stared up at the gleaming Montclair Global building. The morning sun reflected off the glass windows, making the tower look like it was made of diamonds. At 39, with her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun and wearing her best navy blue suit, she felt both excited and terrified. "This is it," she whispered to herself, clutching her leather portfolio folder tighter. "Don't mess this up." After years of piecing together freelance writing jobs while taking care of her father after his stroke, Ariel desperately needed stability. The communications associate position at Montclair Global could change everything. Regular hours, health insurance, and a steady paycheck would make all the difference in her world. She was an hour early for her interview. Her anxiety wouldn't let her be anything but extremely punctual. The massive lobby was busy with people in expensive suits rushing back and forth. Ariel approached the security desk, got her visitor's badge, and was directed to the 32nd floor. The elevator moved so smoothly and quickly that her ears popped. When the doors opened, she found herself in another elegant lobby with several hallways branching off in different directions. A sign pointed to Human Resources down one corridor, but the arrow was confusing. Was it pointing to the left hallway or straight ahead? Ariel chose the left hallway and walked until she found a door marked Private Strategy Session. She checked her watch, still 45 minutes early. Maybe this was a waiting area where she could collect her thoughts. She knocked softly, then pushed the door open when she heard no response. The room was nothing like a waiting area. It was darkened with floor-to-ceiling windows, showing a breathtaking view of the city. A long mahogany table dominated the center, and sitting at the far end with a small espresso cup was a man she instantly recognized from magazine covers and news reports. Nico Montclair, founder and CEO of Montclair Global. The billionaire known for his business genius and impossible-to-impress personality. Ariel froze in the doorway. Nico looked up, his piercing blue eyes meeting hers with surprised irritation. I'm so sorry," she stammered. "I was looking for the HR waiting area. I must have taken a wrong turn." She was about to back out when he spoke. "Not unless HR has started serving espresso in Baccarat Crystal," he said, lifting his tiny cup. Ariel felt her face flush hot with embarrassment. "I'm really sorry to interrupt. I'll just—" As she turned to leave, her portfolio slipped from her hands. Papers scattered across the polished floor. Mortified, she dropped to her knees and scrambled to collect them. To her surprise, Nico Montclair stood up and walked over, bending down to help her. He picked up her resume, glancing at it briefly. "Communications associate position?" he asked. "Yes," she managed, still gathering papers. "I'm way too early. I was just looking for somewhere to wait and prepare." When she looked up, she was stunned to see something unexpected on his face. Not anger or annoyance, but the hint of a smile. "Sit down," he said, nodding toward a chair across from his. "You're already here. Might as well have coffee." Ariel blinked in disbelief. "Are you sure? I don't want to disturb your work. I was just reviewing some paperwork before a meeting. Nothing that can't wait." He returned to his seat and pressed a button on the table. "Do you take cream or sugar?" "Both, please," she answered, still not quite believing what was happening. A minute later, an assistant brought in another espresso cup and set it before her. "Thank you," Ariel said, both to the assistant and to Nico. Her hands trembled slightly as she added cream to her coffee. "So," Nico said, leaning back in his chair, "tell me about yourself, Ariel James." "Well, I'm here for the communications associate position, but I'm guessing you're not part of that interview process." "I'm not. But since you've crashed my private session, you might as well make it worth my while." Ariel took a sip of her coffee to calm her nerves. It was the best coffee she'd ever tasted. "I'm not very good at elevator pitches," she admitted. "I always feel fake when I try to sell myself." "Then don't," he said simply. "Just talk to me." And surprisingly, she did. Not about her qualifications or why she deserved the job, but about real things. She told him about growing up in a small town where the library was her second home, about how she'd helped her father's friend save his struggling hardware store, with a newsletter campaign that connected with the community, about moving back home 3 years ago when her dad had his stroke. "He was always there for me," she explained. "Mom died when I was 12, and he worked 2 jobs to make sure I could go to college. When he got sick, there was no question. I had to be there for him." "Is he better now?" Nico asked, his attention completely focused on her. "Much better. He's living independently again, though I still check on him every day. That's why this job would be so perfect. The stable hours would let me have a real career while still being there for him." Nico nodded thoughtfully. "And your writing? Tell me about that." "I've done a bit of everything. Corporate newsletters, website content, local magazine articles. I even ghost wrote a memoir for a retired teacher. I love finding the heart of a story and bringing it to life with words." As they talked, Ariel forgot to be nervous. There was something unexpectedly easy about talking to Nico Montclair. He listened, really listened, in a way that made her feel truly heard. After almost 30 minutes, she glanced at her watch and gasped, "Oh, I should get to HR. My interview is in 15 minutes. "Of course." Nico stood when she did. "Thank you for the interesting conversation, Ms. James. Thank you for the coffee, and for not having me thrown out," she replied with a small laugh. "Sorry again for barging in. Good luck with whatever strategy session that was supposed to be." Nodded. "Good luck with your interview, which, for the record, is going to be much easier than this one." Ariel's actual interview went well, but felt strangely formal after her conversation with Nico. The HR manager and the communications director asked standard questions about her experience and skills. She answered confidently, but couldn't help wondering if she'd imagined that connection with the company's famous founder. When she got home to her modest apartment, her father was waiting, eager to hear about her day. "So, how did it go?" Samuel James asked from his favorite armchair. At 65, he still had the same warm smile that had guided Ariel through life, though his stroke had left him with a slight droop on the left side of his face. "It was good, I think. But Dad, you won't believe what happened before the interview." She told him about accidentally meeting Nico Montclair, trying to downplay how much the encounter had affected her. "Well, honey, if the big boss himself took time to talk, with you that has to be a good sign. He's not involved in hiring communications associates, Dad. I doubt he even remembers my name by now." Just then, her phone rang with an unknown number. Ariel answered cautiously. "Hello, Ms. James. This is Maria Vega, Mr. Montclair's executive assistant." Ariel's heart skipped. "Yes? I'm pleased to inform you that you've been offered the communications associate position at Montclair Global. The official offer letter will be emailed to you shortly, but Mr. Montclair wanted me to call you personally." That's wonderful. Thank you so much." "Additionally," Maria continued, "Mr. Montclair would like to speak with you. Can I put him on the line?" Before Ariel could respond, a familiar voice came through the phone. "Ariel? Nico Montclair. Here. Mr. Montclair, thank you so much for the job offer. I'm thrilled to—" "I'm glad you're pleased," he interrupted gently. "But that's not why I'm calling. I have a somewhat unusual proposition for you." Ariel sat down slowly on her couch. "What kind of proposition?" "I have a meeting in Paris this weekend. Technically business, mostly beautiful. Would you consider joining me? No pressure, no strings, just coffee, croissants, and conversation with the most surprising person I've met in a decade." Ariel was speechless. Her father raised his eyebrows questioningly from across the room. I don't understand," she finally managed. "You barely know me." "I know enough," Nico replied. "You walk into the wrong room and make it the right one. That's rare. This feels very sudden." "It is. Life usually is when it's about to change. Think about it overnight. Maria will call you tomorrow for your answer. If it's yes, she'll handle all the arrangements. If it's no, the job offer still stands, and we'll pretend this call never happened." After they hung up, Ariel stared at her phone in disbelief. "What was that about?" her father asked, leaning forward in his chair. "He offered me the job," she said slowly. "And then he invited me to Paris, this weekend." "Paris? As in France?" Ariel nodded, still stunned. "Well," Samuel said with a teasing smile, "looks like he did remember your name after all." That night, Ariel barely slept. She paced her small bedroom, weighing the pros and cons. This was crazy. She had just met Nico Montclair. Going to Paris with him would be impulsive, possibly inappropriate, definitely not like her at all. But something about their conversation had felt different from any she'd had before. There had been an ease, a connection that seemed impossible, given their different worlds. By morning, she had made her decision. When Maria called, Ariel took a deep breath and answered with a certainty that surprised even herself. "Yes," she said. "Please tell Mr. Montclair that I accept his invitation." 3 days later, Ariel found herself boarding a private jet to Paris, wondering if she had lost her mind or found her destiny. Ariel stared out the window of the private jet as they soared over the Atlantic. The cabin was more luxurious than any hotel room she'd ever stayed in, with cream leather seats and polished wood tables. A flight attendant had already served them fresh fruit, pastries, and mimosas. "Is this real?" she wondered aloud, not realizing she'd spoken until Nico looked up from his laptop. "The flight? Very real. Takes about 7 hours from New York to Paris," he answered with a hint of amusement. "No, I mean all of this." She gestured around the cabin. "Yesterday I was worried about making my rent payment. Today I'm on a private jet to Paris with one of the richest men in America. It feels like I'm dreaming." Nico closed his laptop and studied her thoughtfully. His dark hair was slightly tousled, making him look more approachable than the polished businessman she'd first met. "Would it help if I told you I'm a little nervous too?" he admitted. "You? Nervous?" Ariel couldn't hide her surprise. "Why would you be nervous?" "Because I don't do this, ever. Ask someone I barely know to fly across the world with me. My assistant Maria nearly fell out of her chair when I told her to arrange it." Ariel laughed, relaxing a little. "What made you do it?" Nico was quiet for a moment. "Something happened when you walked into that room. For the first time in years, I had a conversation that wasn't about business deals or stock prices. You talked to me like I was just a regular person. Well, you are a person. A very wealthy, powerful person, but still just human. You'd be surprised. How many people forget that?" He looked out the window at the clouds below. "When my brother died 5 years ago, I threw myself into work. It was easier than dealing with the loss. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being Nico and became Mr. Montclair, the CEO. Ariel's face softened with sympathy. "I'm sorry about your brother. Were you close?" "Very. David was 4 years younger than me. He was the creative one, the dreamer. I was always the practical business mind. We balanced each other perfectly." His voice grew quieter. "Pancreatic cancer, it happened so fast. One day he was fine, 6 months later he was gone." Without thinking, Ariel reached across the table and placed her hand over his. "That must have been devastating." It was. He looked down at their hands, then back at her face. "What about you? Any siblings?" "No, it was just me and Dad after Mom died, but we had a good life. Dad made sure of that." They talked for hours as the plane crossed the ocean. Ariel told Nico about her college years studying journalism, her brief engagement that ended when her fiancé couldn't handle her father's illness, and her dreams of someday writing a novel. Nico shared stories of building his company from nothing, the early years when he and David worked out of a garage and how lonely success could be. "Most people just want something from me," he explained. "Money, connections, publicity. It's exhausting trying to figure out who's genuine." "That sounds lonely," Ariel said. "It is. But enough about that. We're almost there, and I want you to enjoy every minute of Paris." The sun was setting as they landed at a private airstrip outside Paris. A sleek black car was waiting on the tarmac to take them directly to their hotel. Le Bristol, Nico explained as they drove through the city's elegant streets. "It's one of the most beautiful hotels in Paris." Ariel tried not to gape as they entered the grand lobby, with its crystal chandeliers and marble floors. The hotel staff greeted Nico by name, and they were escorted to an elevator that took them to the top floor. "I've arranged 2 suites," Nico explained as the bellhop opened the door to Ariel's room. "Mine is next door. Take some time to rest and refresh. Dinner reservations are at 8 if you're not too tired." Ariel's suite was bigger than her entire apartment back home. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the Eiffel Tower, which was beginning to sparkle with evening lights. The bathroom was a dream of marble and gold fixtures with a tub big enough to swim in. She called her father as soon as she was alone. "Dad, you wouldn't believe this place. It's like something from a movie." "How was the flight? Are you enjoying yourself?" Samuel asked. "It was amazing, and Nico is not what I expected. He's actually easy to talk to. He told me about his brother who passed away. I think he's been lonely." "Just be careful, sweetheart. I don't want to see you get hurt. Men like that live in a different world." "I know, Dad. I'm keeping my eyes open. But there's something special about him. I can't explain it." After unpacking her modest wardrobe, which now seemed woefully inadequate, Ariel took a luxurious bath. She was just wondering what to wear for dinner when there was a knock at the door. A hotel staff member stood there with several large shopping bags. "Compliments of Mr. Montclair," she said in accented English. Inside the bags, Ariel found a stunning midnight blue cocktail dress, a pair of elegant heels, and even a small jewelry box containing a simple silver bracelet. There was a note. "I hope these fit. No pressure to wear them if they're not your style. Looking forward to dinner." Nico. The dress fit perfectly. Ariel looked at her reflection in the mirror, hardly recognizing herself. The woman looking back at her seemed to belong in this world of luxury and beauty. At precisely 8 o'clock, Nico knocked on her door. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored dark suit that made his blue eyes even more striking. "You look beautiful," he said simply when she opened the door. "Thank you for the dress. You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to. Is it comfortable?" "Very. How did you know my size?" He smiled. "Maria is very good at her job. She called the HR department for your information. I hope that wasn't too presumptuous." "It's perfect. Thank you." Dinner was at a small, exclusive restaurant overlooking the Seine River. Their table was in a private corner with candlelight and a view of the illuminated Notre Dame Cathedral. "This is the most beautiful place I've ever been," Ariel said as they sipped champagne. "Paris has that effect," Nico agreed. "I've traveled all over the world for business, but Paris always feels special." They talked through a 5-course dinner, the conversation flowing as easily as the wine. Nico told her about growing up in a middle-class family in Chicago, how his parents had sacrificed to send him to college, and how he'd started his first company with a loan from his grandmother. "People assume I was born rich," he said, "but everything I have I built. With David's help, of course." "That makes what you've accomplished even more impressive," Ariel said. After dinner, instead of returning to the hotel, Nico asked if she'd like to take a walk along the Seine. "It's the best way to see Paris," he explained. "The city comes alive at night." The evening air was cool, and Nico draped his jacket over Ariel's shoulders as they strolled along the riverbank. Street musicians played romantic songs, and couples danced under the stars. "Would you like to dance?" Nico asked, holding out his hand. "Here, on the street. Why not? We're in Paris." Ariel laughed and took his hand. She couldn't remember the last time she'd danced with anyone. Nico held her gently as they swayed to the music, the city lights reflecting on the water beside them. "Thank you for coming with me," he said softly. "Thank you for asking me. I almost said no." "I'm glad you didn't." When they returned to the hotel, Nico walked her to her door. There was a moment of tension when they said goodnight, but he simply kissed her cheek and wished her sweet dreams. Alone in her suite, Ariel touched her cheek where his lips had been. This wasn't how she'd expected the evening to end, but somehow it felt right. Nico was giving her space, treating her with respect. It made her feel valued in a way she hadn't experienced before. The next morning, Ariel woke to sunshine streaming through the windows and the scent of fresh coffee. A breakfast tray had been delivered with croissants, fruit, and a note from Nico asking if she'd like to meet him in the lobby at 10 for a day of exploring the city. Paris with Nico was like seeing the world through new eyes. They visited small art galleries that tourists never found, had lunch at a tiny cafe where the chef came out to greet Nico like an old friend, and walked through hidden gardens between ancient buildings. "How do you know all these places?" Ariel asked as they discovered a small bookshop tucked away on a quiet street. "David and I spent a summer here after college," Nico explained. "He was the one who found all the secret spots. He could always see the magic in ordinary places. Inside the bookshop, the smell of old paper and leather bindings filled the air. Ariel wandered through the narrow aisles, running her fingers along the spines of books in French and English. Suddenly, she gasped. "I can't believe it!" Nico came to her side. "What is it?" She carefully pulled out a worn blue book. "The Secret Garden." This edition, with these exact illustrations, was my favorite book as a child. I lost my copy in a basement flood when I was 15. I've never been able to find this version again. She opened the book, showing him the delicate watercolor illustrations. "My mother gave it to me just before she died. I used to read it over and over." Nico took the book gently from her hands. "Then you should have it again." "Oh no, I wasn't hinting. I was just surprised to see it." But Nico was already taking it to the register. When the shop owner named a price that made Ariel's eyes widen, Nico simply handed over his credit card. "Please." "That's too much," Ariel protested when they left the shop. "It's not about the money," Nico said. "It's about what it means to you." That evening after dinner, Ariel returned to her suite to find the book on her pillow with a note. "You bring forgotten things back to life, including me." For the first time since arriving in Paris, Ariel cried. Not from sadness, but from a feeling so powerful she couldn't contain it. She was falling for Nico Moncler, and it terrified her. Their final day in Paris was spent walking along the Champs-Élysées, visiting museums, and eating ice cream in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower like tourists. Nico bought her a small painting from a street artist who had captured the exact shade of the Seine at sunset. "A memory of Paris," he said as he handed it to her. That night, they had dinner on the hotel's rooftop terrace. The city sparkled below. Them, a carpet of light stretching to the horizon. "I don't want to leave tomorrow," Ariel admitted. "Neither do I," Nico said, reaching for her hand across the table. "These have been the best 3 days I've had in years." "What happens when we go back? You'll return to being the CEO, and I start my new job as a communications associate. Is that what you're worried about? The differences in our positions?" "Partly. And also, is this real? Or is it just Paris making everything seem magical?" Nico squeezed her hand. "I don't know what happens next, but I know I want to find out. No pressure, no expectations. We'll take it one day at a time." When they returned to their suites, Nico walked her to her door just as he had every night. "Good night, Ariel," he said softly. But this time, instead of a kiss on the cheek, Ariel stood on tiptoe and gently pressed her lips to his. It was a brief kiss, sweet and full of promise. "Good night, Nico," she whispered. As she closed the door, Ariel leaned against it, her heart pounding. Tomorrow they would return to New York and reality. But for tonight, she would dream of Paris, of found books and new beginnings, and of a man who saw her for exactly who she was. The New York skyline appeared outside the plane window as they began their descent. After the magic of Paris, the city looked harsh and imposing to Ariel. She glanced at Nico, who was reviewing emails on his tablet. Already she could see him transforming back into the powerful CEO. "Everything okay?" he asked, noticing her gaze. "Just thinking about going back to real life," she admitted. "Paris felt like a dream." Nico set his tablet aside. "Real life doesn't have to mean the end of everything we shared in Paris. Doesn't. Say it though, tomorrow I'll be a new employee and you'll be the boss everyone's afraid of." He smiled. "Is that how people see me? Scary boss?" "Maria called you Mr. Montclair with such reverence I thought she might bow. I'll have to work on that." He took her hand. "But you're right about one thing. At the office, we need to be professional. Your new colleagues shouldn't think you got special treatment." Ariel nodded, relieved he understood. "So at work, it's strictly business. I report to the communications director, not to you." "Agreed. But outside of work..." He lifted her hand to his lips. "That's different." The car that met them at the airport took Ariel home first. Her small apartment building looked shabby after the luxury of Le Bristol. "I had an amazing time," she said, as the driver unloaded her suitcase. "Thank you for everything." "I'll call you tonight," Nico promised. Inside her apartment, Ariel found her father watching television. He muted it when she entered, his face lighting up. "There's my world traveler," How was Paris? Ariel hugged him tightly. It was incredible, Dad. I have so much to tell you. She spent the next hour showing him photos and describing the places they'd visited. She saved the book for last, carefully unwrapping it from the tissue paper the bookshop owner had used. Look what Nico found, she said, placing The Secret Garden in her father's hands. The exact same edition Mom gave me. Samuel ran his fingers over the cover, his eyes misty. Your mother read this to you every night. I can still hear her voice doing all the characters. He looked up. This Nico fellow found this for you? We found it together in an old bookshop. He insisted on buying it for me. Samuel studied his daughter's face. You've fallen for him, haven't you? Is it that obvious? You're glowing, sweetheart. I haven't seen you look this happy in years. He paused. Just remember who you are. You're special because of your heart, not because some rich man noticed you. I know, Dad. She squeezed his hand. But Nico sees that. He values me for who I am, not what I can do for him. That night, true to his word, Nico called. They talked. For over an hour, like teenagers afraid to hang up. I miss Paris already, Ariel confessed. I miss seeing you across the breakfast table, Nico replied. Get some rest, big day tomorrow. Ariel hardly slept, nerves about her first day at work mixing with thoughts of Nico. She arrived at Montclair Global 30 minutes early, dressed in her most professional outfit, a charcoal grey suit and white blouse. The communications department was on the 27th floor, nowhere near Nico's executive suite. Her new boss, Caroline Fletcher, was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who gave Ariel a quick tour before leading her to a small but nice office with a view of the city. You'll be working on our corporate newsletter and social media content, Caroline explained. I've left the current projects on your desk to review. Staff meeting at 10. By lunchtime, Ariel felt like her head might explode from all the new information. She was eating a sandwich at her desk when her phone pinged with a text from Nico. How's the first day going? She smiled and replied, overwhelming but exciting, learning a lot. Coffee break? Lobby cafe in 10 minutes? Ariel hesitated. They'd agreed to keep things professional at work, but a coffee in a public space seemed harmless. The lobby cafe was bustling with employees. Ariel spotted Nico immediately. Instead of his usual tailored suit, he wore a more casual blazer and open collar shirt. He was standing in line like anyone else, no special treatment. When he saw her, his whole face brightened. There she is. He handed her a large coffee cup. Already ordered. Cream and sugar, right? You remembered, she said, touched by the small gesture. They found a small table in the corner. Nico asked about her first impressions, listening intently as she described her projects. Caroline seems tough but fair, Ariel concluded. She's one of our best. You'll learn a lot from her. He glanced at his watch. I have a meeting in 5 minutes. Dinner tonight? I know a great Italian place near your apartment. I'd like that. As they stood to leave, a sleek blonde woman in a designer suit approached their table. Ariel instantly recognized Victoria Winters, the company's marketing director whose photo she'd seen in the employee directory. Nico, darling. Victoria purred, completely ignoring Ariel. I've been trying to reach you all morning. We need to discuss the Peterson account. Her hand rested possessively on Nico's arm. Her familiarity made Ariel uncomfortable. Schedule something with Maria, Nico said, subtly shifting away from Victoria's touch. Victoria, this is Ariel James, our new communications associate. Ariel, Victoria Winters, marketing director. Victoria gave Ariel a cold once-over. Oh, welcome aboard. Starting in the communications department is quaint. I started in the executive suite, but we all have different paths. It's nice to meet you, Ariel said politely, though Victoria's dismissive tone stung. Nico, don't forget the charity. Gala on Friday, Victoria added. We're expected to make an appearance together. The press will be there. Nico's face tightened almost imperceptibly. I haven't forgotten. After Victoria sashayed away, Ariel raised an eyebrow. An appearance together. Victoria and I dated briefly last year, Nico explained. It didn't work out, but we often attend company events together for publicity reasons. The board likes... Did I see? Ariel tried to keep her voice neutral. It's purely business, Nico assured her. I'll explain more tonight. But that evening, Nico had to cancel their dinner plans. An emergency board meeting came up and he was stuck at the office until late. Ariel tried not to feel disappointed as she ate leftovers alone in her apartment. The next 3 days followed a similar pattern. Ariel threw herself into learning her new job, while Nico was swamped with what he described as a potential acquisition situation. They texted throughout the day, but their planned dinner kept getting postponed. On Thursday, Ariel was working. Late when Caroline stopped by her office. "Your newsletter draft is excellent," her boss said. "You have a real talent for finding the human angle in corporate news." "Thank you. That means a lot." Caroline hesitated. "I should mention, people are talking about you and Nico Montclair having coffee together." Ariel's stomach dropped. "It was just coffee." "I'm sure it was. But in this building, everything gets noticed, especially when it involves the CEO. Caroline's voice softened. "I like you, Ariel. You're smart and talented. I'd hate to see office politics get in the way of your career." After Caroline left, Ariel sat staring at her computer screen. Was seeing Nico worth risking her new job? The job she desperately needed? Her phone pinged with a text from Nico. "Finally free. Dinner tonight? I've missed you." Ariel took a deep breath and replied, "Yes, we need to talk." The Italian restaurant was small and cozy, with red checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. Nico was waiting when she arrived, looking tired but happy to see her. "I'm sorry about this week," he said after they ordered. "This acquisition has been in the works for months. The timing couldn't be worse. It's okay, I understand you have responsibilities. How's the job going?" "Good, I'm learning a lot." "But," she hesitated. "But what?" Nico prompted. "People are talking about us, about me being seen with you." Nico frowned. "Already? It was just coffee." "That's what I said. But Caroline warned me that everything gets noticed when it involves you." He reached across the table for her hand. "I'm sorry. Office politics can be brutal. If you want to keep your distance at work, I understand completely. It's not just that." Ariel took a deep breath. "Victoria made it pretty clear that you two have a history, and you're attending that gala together tomorrow. Victoria and I dated for 3 months last year. It was a mistake. She's brilliant at her job, but we want very different things in life." He squeezed her hand. "The gala is a company event. The board expects senior executives to make appearances. At these things, it's not a date. And what about us? What are we doing, Nico?" His blue eyes met hers. "I'm falling in love with you, Ariel. I know it's fast, but I've never felt this way about anyone." "Not even close." Ariel's heart raced. "I'm falling for you too, but I'm scared. Your world is so different from mine. Then we'll create our own world, one where none of that matters." The rest of dinner passed in a happy blur. They talked about their childhoods, their favorite books, their dreams. For those few hours, there was no Montclair Global, no office politics, just two people connecting. When Nico walked her to her door, their goodnight kiss lingered, full of promise and possibility. "Come to the gala tomorrow," he said suddenly. "As my guest, with Victoria there. Is that a good idea? I want you there with me. Let people talk if they want to." Ariel bit her lip. "I don't have anything to wear to a fancy gala." "Leave that to me. Maria will have something delivered tomorrow." He kissed her again. "Say yes." "Yes," she whispered against his lips. The next day at work, a large box was delivered to Ariel's office. Inside was a stunning emerald green evening gown with a note. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Car will pick you up at 7. And Caroline raised an eyebrow when she saw the box. "Special delivery?" "I've been invited to the charity gala tonight." Ariel explained. "By Nico Montclair, I assume?" When Ariel nodded, Caroline sighed. "Just be careful. Victoria Winters doesn't like competition." That evening, Ariel's father whistled when she emerged from her bedroom in the green gown. "You look just like your mother," he said softly. "She would be so proud of you." "Thanks, Dad." She kissed his cheek. "Don't wait up." The gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. As the car pulled up to the entrance, Ariel saw photographers and reporters lining the red carpet. Her stomach clenched with nerves. The driver opened her door and suddenly Nico was there, handsome in a black tuxedo, offering his hand. "You look breathtaking," he whispered as she stepped out. Cameras flashed. As they walked inside together, Ariel could feel curious eyes on them, heard the whispers as people realized the CEO had arrived with someone new instead of Victoria Winters. Speaking of Victoria, she appeared moments later, her face tight with anger, when she spotted Ariel on Nico's arm. "I thought we were attending together," she hissed at Nico when she reached them. "I never confirmed that, Victoria," Nico replied calmly. "You know Ariel, she's my guest tonight." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake, Nico. The board won't like this distraction, especially with the Waverley merger on the line." "The board doesn't dictate my personal life," Nico said firmly. Victoria turned to Ariel. "Enjoy your moment, sweetheart. It won't last." With that, she stalked away. "I'm sorry about that," Nico said. "Victoria doesn't handle rejection well. She seemed pretty sure the board would be upset about us." "Don't worry about the board. They work for me, not the other way around." The evening was a whirlwind of introductions as Nico proudly presented Ariel to business associates, clients, and friends. Most were welcoming, though some gave her curious looks, clearly wondering who this newcomer was. Near the end of the evening, an older man with silver hair approached them. "Nico, my boy. Successful event. Thank you, Walter. Have you met Ariel James? She's recently joined our communications team. Ariel, this is Walter Pembroke, chairman of our board." Walter's handshake was firm, his gaze assessing. "Miss James, interesting. I was expecting to see Victoria with Nico tonight." "Victoria and I are colleagues, nothing more," Nico stated firmly. Walter's eyebrows rose. "I see. Well, Miss James, welcome to Montclair Global. I hope you're finding your position satisfactory." There was something in his tone that made Ariel uncomfortable. "Very much so, Mr. Pembroke. It's an honor to be part of the company." After Walter moved on, Nico led Ariel to a quiet corner. "Don't mind Walter. He and Victoria's father are old friends. He's always hoped Victoria and I would end up together. It would make for good business connections." "And what about the Waverley merger Victoria mentioned?" Nico looked surprised. "That's supposed to be confidential. But yes, we're negotiating. To acquire Waverley Technologies, it would be the biggest deal in the company's history. And Victoria thinks I'm going to somehow mess that up." "Victoria thinks anything that doesn't fit her plan is a problem." He pulled her closer. "You are definitely not a problem. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years." As they swayed gently to the music, Ariel rested her head on Nico's shoulder. For this moment, everything was perfect. But in the back of her mind, she couldn't shake the feeling that their story wasn't going to be quite as simple as falling in love. She just hoped they were strong enough to face whatever came next. The Monday after the gala, Ariel could feel the difference as soon as she walked into the office. Conversation stopped when she entered the break room. Co-workers who had been friendly before now gave her curious or judgmental looks. Enjoying the spotlight, her cubicle neighbor, Jenny, asked, "You and the boss made quite a splash at the gala. It's all over the company newsletter." Ariel's stomach dropped. "The newsletter?" Jenny handed her a printout. There on the front page was a photo of Ariel and Nico dancing at the gala, her head on his shoulder, his arms around her waist. The caption read, "CEO Nico Montclair with communications associate Ariel James at the annual charity gala." "I didn't realize there would be company photographers there," Ariel said weakly. "Honey, there are always photographers at these events." Jenny leaned closer. "Look, I'm not judging. He's gorgeous and rich, but just be careful, okay? Office. Romances are complicated enough without the power imbalance." Ariel tried to focus on her work, but the whispers and stares made it difficult. At lunchtime, Caroline called her into her office. "I assume you've seen the newsletter," Caroline said without preamble. "Yes, I'm sorry if it creates a problem for the department." Caroline sighed. "It's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world either. Just be prepared for extra scrutiny. People will question whether you earned your position." "I didn't even know Nico when I interviewed." "I know that, but perception matters in corporate America." Caroline gave her a rare smile. "For what it's worth, I think Nico Montclair has better taste than most give him credit for." That afternoon, Ariel was summoned to the executive floor. Maria showed her into a conference room where Walter Pembroke was waiting. Miss James. "Thank you for coming." Walter gestured to a chair across from him. "I'll get right to the point. Your relationship with Nico Montclair is becoming a distraction." Ariel sat up straighter. "With all due respect, Mr. Pembroke, my personal life is private. Not when it involves the CEO of this company and appears on the front page of our newsletter." Walter leaned forward. "The Waverley merger is at a critical stage. We can't afford any complications. I don't see how my relationship with Nico affects a business merger." Walter's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Business is built on relationships, Miss James. The Waverley family is very traditional. They expect a certain image from their business partners. Victoria Winters comes from the right background, knows the right people. She would be an asset to this merger." Ariel felt cold. "Are you suggesting I break up with Nico for the sake of a business deal?" "I'm suggesting you consider what's best for everyone involved, including yourself." He slid a folder across the table. "Inside, you'll find a transfer offer to our Los Angeles office. Better title, significant pay increase. It would be a wonderful opportunity for someone at your career stage." Ariel stared at the folder but didn't touch it. "You want to send me away?" "I want to offer you a promotion that solves several problems at once. Does Nico know about this? This is a board matter. Nico has recused himself from decisions involving your employment, for obvious reasons." Ariel stood up. "I need to think about this." "Of course, but the offer expires at the end of the week." Walter's voice hardened slightly. "Miss James, I hope you understand the position you're in. If you decline this generous offer, your future at Montclair Global could become uncertain." Back at her desk, Ariel tried to process what had just happened. Was she being bribed to leave Nico, or threatened with losing her job if she didn't? She texted Nico, "Need to talk. Important." His reply came quickly. "In meetings all day. Dinner at my place tonight. 8 p.m. We'll send car." Ariel had never been to Nico's home before. The car took her to a sleek high-rise overlooking Central Park. The doorman escorted her to a private elevator that opened directly into a stunning penthouse apartment. Nico greeted her with a kiss. "I've missed you." "It's only been 2 days," she said with a small smile, too long. He led her through the apartment to a dining area where a table was set for 2. "I had dinner catered from that Italian place you liked." As they ate, Ariel tried to find the right words to explain her meeting with Walter. Finally, she just handed Nico the folder with the transfer offer. "Walter gave me this today. He said it would be best for everyone if I moved to Los Angeles." Nico's expression darkened as he read the documents. "He had no right to do this. He said you recused yourself from decisions about my employment." "I did, to avoid any conflict of interest, but I never authorized this." Nico threw the folder aside. "I'll speak to Walter tomorrow. He implied the Waverley merger depends on you being with Victoria instead of me. Something about the Waverley family being traditional." Nico ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "That's ridiculous. The merger is a business decision, not a personal one. But Walter seems to think otherwise, and he made it pretty clear that if I don't take the LA job, I might not have a job at all." "He threatened you?" Nico's voice was dangerously quiet. Not directly, but the message was clear. Nico pulled out his phone. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. This ends now. What are you going to do?" "What I should have done as soon as I met you. Make it clear to everyone that you're the most important person in my life, and anyone who has a problem with that has a problem with me." Ariel touched his arm. "I don't want to be the reason you have troubles with your board. You're not the reason their outdated thinking is." He held her face gently. "Ariel, I love you. I'm not going to let Walter or Victoria or anyone else come between us." "I love you too," she whispered. That night, Ariel stayed at Nico's penthouse. As they lay together in his bed, she shared her fears about the future. "What if they force you to choose between me and the company?" "Then it's no choice at all," Nico said simply. "I built Montclair Global from nothing once. I could do it again if I had to. But what I have with you, that's irreplaceable." The next morning, Nico kissed her goodbye. "The board meeting is at 10. I'll call you as soon as it's over." "Good luck," she said, trying to hide her anxiety. At work, Ariel could barely concentrate. When lunchtime came and she still hadn't heard from Nico, she began to worry. Had the meeting gone badly? Was he still fighting for them? She was picking at a salad at her desk when her phone rang. It was her father. "Are you watching the news?" he asked without preamble. "No, why?" "Turn it on, business channel, now." Ariel quickly pulled up the business news on her computer. The headline made her gasp. "Breaking. Nico Montclair steps down as CEO of Montclair Global." The reporter was saying, "In a shocking move, Nico Montclair announced his resignation during an emergency board meeting this morning. Sources say the decision came after a dispute with the board over the direction of the company. Montclair, who founded the company 15 years ago with his late brother David, will retain his majority ownership, but will no longer serve as CEO." "Oh my God," Ariel whispered. "He quit because of me." "You better call him," her father advised, but before she could, there was a commotion in the office. She looked up to see Nico walking toward her desk, ignoring the stares and whispers. "What are you doing here?" she asked, standing up. "I came to take you to lunch." He smiled, but she could see the strain behind it. "I just saw the news." "You resigned? Let's talk somewhere private." They went to a small park near the office building. Once they were seated on a bench away from others, Nico explained what had happened. "I told the board I wouldn't tolerate Walter's interference in my personal life. He insisted the Waverley family would back out if they knew I was involved with someone who wasn't from their social circle." "And the board took his side?" "Some did. Others were more reasonable. But in the end, I realized something important." He took her hands in his. "I don't want to run a company where who I love is considered a liability. But you built that company with your brother. It's your legacy." "You're right. And that's why I'm still the majority shareholder. I'll remain on the board, but I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations." His eyes were bright with excitement. "I've been thinking about this for a while, ever since David died. The company hasn't felt the same without him." "What will you do?" "Remember in Paris when I told you David was the creative one? He always had ideas for products that would help people, not just make money. I want to start a foundation in his name, focusing on the kind of innovative work he would have loved." "That sounds wonderful," Ariel said softly. "But are you sure this is what you want?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He squeezed her hands. "And I want you with me, if you're willing. Not as an employee, but as a partner. The foundation will need someone who can communicate its mission with heart. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a future. Together." He smiled. "What do you say?" "I say yes," Ariel replied without hesitation. "To all of it." That evening, Ariel invited Nico to dinner at her apartment to meet her father properly. Samuel James greeted Nico with a firm handshake and a direct gaze. "So you're the man who's turning my daughter's life upside down," Samuel said. "Dad!" Ariel protested. "It's a fair assessment," Nico admitted. "But I hope in a good way, sir." Samuel studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Call me Sam. Anyone who gives up a CEO position rather than give up my daughter deserves to be on a first-name basis." The three of them had a simple but warm dinner in Ariel's small kitchen. Nico fit into their family dynamic, surprisingly, well, listening to Samuel's stories and sharing some of his own. Later, as Ariel walked Nico to the door, he said, "Your father is a wonderful man. I see where you get your integrity." "He likes you," she said. "That's not easy to accomplish. He's very protective." "As he should be." Nico pulled her close. "You're a treasure worth protecting." 6 months later, the David Montclair Foundation was up and running, with offices in a renovated brownstone near Central Park. Ariel served as communications director, crafting the foundation's message and sharing stories of the people they helped. Nico was happier than he'd been in years, free from the corporate politics, and focused on work that honored his brother's memory. He and Ariel had moved in together, finding a place that was a compromise between his luxury penthouse and her cozy apartment. One spring morning, Ariel arrived at the office to find Nico waiting with 2 cups of coffee, one in a baccarat crystal cup, one in a regular mug. "What's this?" she asked, smiling. "1 year ago today you walked into the wrong room and changed my life," he said, handing her the crystal cup. "You remembered?" How could I forget? It was the day everything started going right. He took her free hand. Which is why I thought this would be the perfect day to ask you an important question. He set his coffee down and, to Ariel's surprise, dropped to one knee. Ariel James, you crashed my private strategy session and turned it into the best meeting of my life. You've shown me what it means to be truly connected to someone, to share not just success and happiness, but challenges and growth. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Inside the box was a beautiful but modest diamond ring. I chose something that wouldn't get in the way of your typing, he explained with a smile. I know how important your work is to you. Tears filled Ariel's eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. As Nico slipped the ring onto her finger, he said, I always thought I knew exactly where my life was headed. Then you opened the wrong door and proved me completely wrong. Best mistake I ever made, Ariel said, leaning down to kiss him. That weekend they visited Samuel to share their news. He hugged them both, his eyes misty. Your mother would have loved him, he told Ariel. She always said the right person shows up when you least expect it. In the wrong room at the right time, Ariel added, smiling at Nico. Their wedding was held the following spring in the garden of the foundation building. It was a small ceremony with close friends and family. Victoria, who had become CEO of Montclair Global after Nico's departure, even sent a generous gift, a sign that perhaps time had healed old wounds. As Ariel walked down the aisle toward Nico, she thought about the journey that had brought them here, from a mistaken door to a Paris bookshop, from corporate politics to a foundation built on love and memory. She had once been terrified of Nico's world, the wealth, the power, the expectations. But together, they had created a new world, one where what mattered most was being true to themselves and to each other. When she reached Nico at the altar, he took her hands and whispered, ready for a lifetime of walking through the right doors. Together? As long as you're on the other side, she whispered back, every door is the right one. And as they exchanged their vows under the spring sunshine, surrounded by people who truly cared for them, both Ariel and Nico knew they had found exactly where they belonged, with each other. The end.